How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Quick note up top on this episode, apologies, I did not have the right mic plugged in, so my audio isn't as good as it's been in previous episodes. It's still fine, it's just not as good as it's been, and we'll be back to form next week.
So what are you doing down there?
Well, this morning I took an ATV to a sister wives dress shop.
Hello, this is the Cinema, the podcast where I, Cathy, and my husband Dave record our walk home from the movies every Sunday. But this is not the regular podcast. This is a spin-off every Saturday where I review, and just like that, with special guests, because I just can't help myself. And today I have returning guest, author and podcaster, Rosemary Mac Cabe. Welcome back, Rosemary.
Hello.
You couldn't stay away, back for episode 4.
Oh my God, just like Carrie, I'm fresh off the farm. I work on a farm once a week, fresh off the farm, and I'm ready to talk about episode 307? What is it, episode 4? I have no idea.
I don't think the listeners realise you have actually just come from a farm. Like, that's not a gag.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. Once a week I go, unlike Carrie, I actually work on the farm. She just swans around. We'll get to that. But once a week I go and I do this work share. So I go and work on a farm in exchange for eggs and produce.
That's amazing.
As they say in America.
So next time I introduce you, I need to say podcaster, author, and farmer, Rosemary Mac Cabe.
No, I'm not sure I'll be making it. I'm not sure I'll be making it as a farmer, but I mean, stranger things have happened.
I love it. It's brilliant. So how have you been getting on since we last caught up? You've watched episodes 2, 3, coming into episode 4.
I've watched them all. I feel like each episode has been 3 hours long, and yet nothing has happened. Halfway through this episode we're about to talk about, I paused to get a cup of tea or get the dog off me or something. And I was truly shocked that there were a full 20 minutes left. I was like, surely I have now watched the War and Peace of, and just like that. But no, there were 20 minutes left. But actually, I have a really, really important question to ask after watching this episode. And it is this. Do you think that Aiden is a MAGA Republican? Because I feel like he's very much going down the crunchy mom to alt-right pipeline. Mm-hmm. He's living on the farm. He's anti-medication. He's anti-screen time. He's very even the way I'm sure we'll talk about this, but even the way his ex-wife's boyfriend says, "Oh, I'm not allowed to have an opinion." Mm-hmm. Aiden feels very MAGA coded to me all of a sudden.
Wow, that is such a good take. I didn't think it, but now I 100% think it. You're right.
And I don't know, we've never really known about Carrie or any of their politics, have we? I don't think they've ever really talked about anything.
We'd understand that if they were to do politics, they'd be Democrats. But when she dated that politician, for Mad Men, there was kind of a few discussions around it, but it was more about wasn't JFK hot? That was kind of the level of discussion.
Yeah, there. I don't know. I feel like I probably would have thought that before I moved to America. Now that I live in America, I'm like, okay, these rich white ladies who live in New York. I mean, New York, you'd think more likely to be Democratic than if they lived in Indiana, where I live. But I still am rich old white ladies.
I mean, Charlotte, probably, definitely. Miranda, I think we'd assume is Democrat. Carrie, I'd say she may identify as apolitical, which I think is kind of a red flag.
I mean, typical Carrie.
I think she would, but I think you're right. I think Aiden's gone down that dark path.
I think Samantha, even though she's not in it, but she's the spectre that's going to haunt this show forever. I think she would identify as fiscally Republican, because I think she's very liberal, in her ethos, but I think she's very money driven, and I think she would be very consider herself fiscally Republican. I've met many fiscal Republicans since I moved here.
I mean, yeah, there's so much division, now, but back in the 90s, it was okay to say I'd like a bit of one party and a bit of the other, which is when we first met the gals. I love this point on Aidan, though. Can I tell you a theory that somebody sent us online?
Go on.
So on TikTok, Maria Westwood sent us a message saying someone had the theory that Aidan was dead. He died in the accident with the kid, and he's a ghost ever since. I was into that theory until this episode, unless this is hell, which it kind of felt like. This was the afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, if he is a ghost, like if we were to go down that timeline where Aidan was a ghost and the ghost of Carrie's past, what lessons is he teaching her? Because it seems like none.
He's teaching her that you don't medicate children. That painting is self-care, I guess. And that she should dress as like a trad wife. So now that I think about your MAGA theory, the trad wife clothes fit into it a little bit. Now, he did say...
And he really liked them.
He was very into it. He's like, you look like a calendar girl. Yeah, I love this theory. When we kind of opened this episode, like, this is the Carrie and Aidan episode, for sure. We open with her waking up on the farm. And the older son... just thrilled that she's there. And this took me a bit by surprise. As a kid with divorced parents, I just can't imagine myself as a teenager having been that excited to meet one of their partners.
I thought it was really weird. I did start with, haven't these children grown up on this farm? Like, as in, because they seemed really excited to be on a farm or something. There was a kind of a child like, oh, look, here we are. And you're right, they were really excited to see Carrie. And like, have we seen them meeting Carrie before? Like in any in-depth way?
I don't think so. Now we know Wyatt hates her, right? But the middle kid especially, and then the older kid, politely kind of greeted her. But the middle kid was effusive.
Oh, loves her. Yeah. Big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of what we opened on. And he was like trying to look in the bedroom window at her and stuff.
Really weird.
From the off, it's weird. And
also, why was she wearing a cardigan in bed? Sorry. Why was she... I mean, I understand that, like, all of her luggage got left in the rental car, right? So she has no clothes. Mm-hmm. But why would you not just wear your brand underwear in bed? Why is she wearing a cardigan? Because it's meant to be freezing? Was that what we're meant to believe?
I know he had to hide her in the guest house, but I feel like Aidan could have given her an old t-shirt to sleep in. And then thus begins the demise of Aidan in this episode.
Sorry, there is no reason he had to hide her in the guest house.
No.
Children, I mean, almost grown men, let's face it, what are they, like the youngest one is 15, are capable of dealing with the surprise of the likes of my girlfriend's here.
I don't know, because having seen Wyatt in this episode now, I'm like, I wouldn't be springing anything on Wyatt.
I kind of felt like the freak out, like, and they all acted like this was... oh my God, Wyatt's going to need to be committed. Like this was the biggest. And Carrie going, I see now why you have to stay in Virginia. This is really bad and really hard. And I was like, this is just kids. This is teenagers. This is like my friends' teenagers have like broken mirrors in rages, have like, kicked cabinets and broken, like that. And like over nothing, because they said, no, you can't use your Xbox controller as a spoon rest or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like far
and
less
testosterone here as well. There's
testosterone, and kids hate losing games. They hate losing games.
I honestly really identified with that scene, because that's basically every time we try and play board games with our kids. I kind of loved, like, before we get to that scene though, when Carrie, like, we very early on see how controlling Aidan is. Like, I think this episode really got to that. Like when like, fair enough, I understand that he's like, I don't want my teenager on his screen, right? I understand that. And he's like getting him to paint the house and stuff. But when he's just trying to control everything, like Carrie kind of pushes the VR thing and he gives in, but then he's like, well, I'm coming with you. He's just... he did not come off well in this episode. I felt like also, and I feel really bad saying this because I know Samantha Irby is one of the writers on And Just Like That, and I really love her and I love her books. I'm not actually sure. I think she's on this season as well, but she was definitely on the last season. Yes, I just think it's really badly written. I think it's really unrealistically written. Like, nobody with a teenager is getting away with not letting them have any screen. Like, it's just not happening. Yeah.
So him going, oh no, because then he'll be on his Switch. newsflash, Aiden, your teenager is going to be on his Switch every single day for a minimum of 1 hour, and you are going to have to deal with it. And like you know, you can put parameters on it as, and you can only go on it in this time. You can't go on it before breakfast. You can't go on it before dinner. Like whatever it is. But the idea that he is living with 2 teenage boys and he is expecting and somehow managing to keep them off devices all the time is crazy, and has been written by somebody who did not have children.
And also the Switch is the most innocent of all the screens that I'm happy with young men looking at. The Switch is
totally fine.
Yeah.
The Switch is very fun. I mean, maybe I just haven't got to the non-fun, non-innocent game. The Xbox I'd be more worried about. There's a lot of shooting on the Xbox, but the Switch seems more mild.
Yeah.
But when they go to the VR, so this is when like
such a bad scene.
Carrie's trying to bond with them. They go and they do this VR thing. I would also like to point out Aiden is cursing his head off throughout the whole VR thing, which I thought was weird in front of his kids. And then when Wyatt says Jesus fuck later on, he gets in trouble. And I'm like, you're a hypocrite, because you were basically like shouting "fuck you, motherfucker" during the VR game.
Aiden was so embarrassing. Like I was actually embarrassed watching him in this episode.
I thought I was going to be embarrassed watching Carrie, but she was actually fine.
She was fine.
But the part as well where she gets hit on the head and they go, okay, the game is over. That's also like, sorry, have you never played games with kids? That's not how it works. Like maybe if the kid gets hit on the head, but as the adult, I spent half my life like grievously injured and nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean?
Also,
like, the
even
kids
if
do not care.
Carrie's not used to being around teenagers, right? Carrie might say, listen, I'm going to take a break, but like you keep playing. But, like, why did the whole thing stop? And it was supposed to be a bonding moment for Wyatt. So like I get that. And like then we have the scene where she's, can't remember if it was before or after this, but she goes shopping in that dress shop, which I kind of liked, and like that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
like,
that felt like old school Sex in the City.
Yeah, I enjoy that. And she was on the phone to, I think it was Miranda, but when we get to the dinner party scene, and then the ex-wife shows up with her boyfriend, who is like waving some red flags about this family,
about Aiden,
it all descends, and I actually, this is the first episode where I've been like really into the storyline. Because I thought, they've actually been very haphazardly and not very well planting this. But like in episode 4, I felt like a bit of a payoff.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt to me a little bit like a different show, though. That I'm like, okay, now we're watching a show about like family dynamics and kind of this fucked up family. And I was interested in it. But like, I don't like when the show leaves New York, if you know what I mean. Like, I never really liked, even the Hamptons episodes of Sex and the City were never my favorite. So I did feel like it kind of becomes something slightly different when they're not in New York anymore. I feel like they're planting seeds for Carrie and Aiden to break up, but I really wish we had just got like the tree of that in episode 2. Like, and like even in this episode where she goes like, you know, I understand now why you have to stay in Virginia, and I totally support that. And he goes, are you breaking up with me? And I was literally on my seat going, say yes.
Yes,
say
I
yes.
know.
Like, please, let's just move on from this. Fuck the hot gardener. This is going to be great. But no.
I thought so too. And then kind of when she left, she kind of admitted, like, I've been living in this empty house. I've been living this fantasy that you would come. And that the boys, like, I thought it was like, and it was, I think it was in episode 2 with, we were chatting about how Carrie just seemed a bit like of a sad sack and didn't really have much going for her anymore. Like, she didn't even have a vision for her own garden. Like, she seems really a shell of herself. And I feel like this episode, I'm hoping that she's gonna get her groove back, because she's actually quite, and like, she's been bereaved and then she's ended up in this really weird situation with Aiden. So I wonder if the show is just like trying to have it both ways, so where they like, look, we want Carrie and Aiden to end up eventually, but now we're just parking the Aiden stuff because it's too weird and boring and unmanageable. I think that's what they're doing. I think she's going to start
so
dating.
boring. Can I also say I thought it was insensitive of him to put her in the guest house with all the exercise equipment when that's basically how her ex-husband died. He didn't die on his Peloton and he leaves her there in the home gym. Like, that's a bit on the nose now, Aiden.
Like, Aiden loves that happened to Big, you know? Like, Aiden will be forever like happy about that. When the thing about Aiden not believing in medicating kids and like getting really angry at the card game, and also like I love when all the other kids are like, oh, it's the Wyatt show again. Like, that's how siblings interact, and Wyatt's like, no one ever lets me win. Like, that all felt very true, but Aiden is the one who came out poorly. Nobody else came out poorly. Oh, Wyatt's just a kid.
He came out looking terrible. The whole thing. His ex-wife seems totally normal.
If I was Carrie and I was like, what am I doing here? And then all that shit happened, I would be like, do you know what? Look, this really has nothing to do with me. I don't need to be here. Like, I'm out of here. Like, at this point, why is she, other than clinging onto the past, and I understand that 'cause she kind of tries to think of Hayden as like the great love of her life as well as Big. Why is she with him? Like, what's he got to offer? Like, he's like dad jokes, he's emojis, he's very controlling, he's not coming to visit her, he's really embarrassing to be around. Like, I don't see it anymore.
He also just doesn't seem particularly interested in her. I also was baffled by sending her off to town on the ATV.
Yeah,
and like,
what was
maybe
that?
it's just because I know somebody who's hurt themselves really badly on an ATV, but I'm like, that's
In
not safe.
stilettos. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean,
safe.
you know, this woman is not. She just had her hip replaced, for fuck's sake.
And I was like, why isn't she driving? Is it because her license isn't valid anymore? But like, would that really matter in the small town? Like, they didn't really explain
good point.
that.
I kind of forgot about that aspect of it. Maybe that was why she wasn't driving.
She left on the plane, once again in economy class, which our guest last week from Fixing Famous People pointed out she would have never flown economy. So I was then laughing to see her flying economy again. And she buys the table, and again I'm like, it's a bit sad that like that's Carrie's moment, but at the same time I too have obsessed over furniture, and look, I wouldn't spend that much money, but
sorry, she didn't buy the table. She went to look at the table again and saw that it was sold.
Oh,
so it was like a sad moment. It was like, oh, this is past, like I don't even get my table now.
Right. And then the woman glanced out of her train compartment, mystified, not quite sure if her taxing journey brought her closer to or further from the things she most longed for.
What does she even long for?
I don't know.
To live in her house with her and like agree with her furniture choices? Is like is that the dream we're supposed to think Carrie wants in her life now?
I think Carrie's at a crossroads and doesn't know what she wants, but she's not articulating that to us, the viewer, and we're kind of waiting for her to be sassy and fun, but not just like one line quips, which is kind of what she's been doing. She doesn't have like a zest for life, and I don't think the show's trying to do a study on bereavement either, so I actually don't know what's happening.
That was season 1 or 2 or whichever one that was. There was like we did see a study in bereavement. I just want to see a study in dating. That's what I want. I want her to date. And you know
just
what? I would actually
Carrie.
I would give up that dream if she would fuck the hot gardener and fall madly in love. She doesn't even have to date multiple people.
Yeah.
She can have him, or I want to see her dating. Those are the two avenues that I wish for this show to go down.
Yeah. Even though the gardener's like got Aiden's old hair and apparently it's a weave, so I'm now less into him now that I've heard that. I don't
think it's a weave. It's like hair transplant. That's not a weave.
It's something. It's a wig. I don't know what it is.
A wig?
Apparently, yeah.
What do you mean apparently? Where are you reading this?
Well,
where are you getting your
internet speculation?
Your inside information?
By apparently, I mean I think it's a wig, and I saw it somewhere on TikTok. I think the closest avenue we have into Carrie's mind is her fiction, her literary works.
Your Roman Empire.
My Roman Empire. I've actually sent Rosemary everything we've learned so far about this book and all the copy we have. And Rosemary has read her own memoir, haven't you, as an audiobook?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm an old hat. I will do a dramatic reading.
Thank you. And Rosemary also reads her Substack articles, so she is well versed in voicing. So I want you to read me from episode 1 through to episode 4 everything we've discovered about this novel.
Okay. Episode 1. The woman wondered what she had gotten herself into. Episode 2. Sitting in the sunlight, the woman felt the fog of the last few nights lift. She realized her recent tossing and turning and insecurities were remnants of another time. A time when she was less sure of her path. This is a new house, she reminded herself.
So
a new life. This wasn't her past. It was the present. May 1846.
Imagine you read a book and it actually said that.
Also in episode 2, the woman lifted her petticoat and hurried up the twisting iron staircase. She stepped carefully in her dove grey button boots to make sure that she wouldn't stumble as she crossed the threshold and went on her way. Episode 3. Albeit dispossessed of her nightgown and carpet bag, with little more than her thoughts for company, she burrowed beneath her blankets to stave off the cold, uncertain night ahead.
Locked in a guest house.
Episode 4. The woman glanced out of her train compartment, mystified, not quite sure if her taxing journey brought her closer to or further from the things she most longed for.
Beautiful, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Would you read this
Would
book?
you like to take an ad break?
No, I think we need to dive in. What do you think as a writer? Would you read this book? Would you put your name to this book if you were an author?
Oh my God. Sorry. No. I mean, reading it out there is kind of ridiculous, right? Because you're like, the woman doesn't have a name. You would never really read a book with just the woman. But obviously they can't give her a name because they're not trying to give it a whole nother storyline.
Yeah.
It's just about Carrie and her thoughts, and they're trying to move on from. And just like that, or she couldn't help but wonder. I couldn't help but wonder.
Which one
I
are they
really
moving
miss.
on from?
I know, I really miss. I couldn't help but wonder. Like, this is the perfect time for Carrie to have a Substack.
Yeah, it really
Like, she could have a
is.
Substack talking about her life, and that could also be like potentially an issue with Aidan, where he's going, Wyatt got on your Substack, and read what you've written about me, and like, I really don't want you to write this, and that could be a whole part of his controlling personality as well, which I'd be interested in seeing how she would handle it.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. I should be in
idea.
this fucking writer's room. Thank you.
You should be, because you know I mentioned the politician she dated in like season 3 earlier, and in that episode, remember, he wants to piss on her and she won't let him, and then he says, well, my campaign won't let me date you anyway because you're a sex writer, and then she wrote something called To Pee or Not to Pee about him.
Oh yeah,
like, they were the good old days, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we need. She has no outlet other than this strange fiction that like is just the last line of every chapter. But if this is how chapters end, I am not turning the page. She
has nothing. She has a cat. She has a house with no furniture in it. She has friends that honestly are not really great. Like, you know, when she's looking for somebody to go to Virginia with her and like they won't go. And only Seema, because she gets fired, is basically like, I suppose I have some time on my hands. Or
could you go,
because
though,
she quits her job.
If your friend was like, this situationship I'm in with a 55-year-old man who doesn't want to see me, and I'm just dropping over to kind of doorstop him. I
think it depends on the friend. I think in some scenarios I would feel like, fuck, I have to go with her now, don't I? Like, it depends on how close we were, you know what I mean? Probably with my sister, I'd be like, oh, I have to go.
Yeah, you probably slag her. Yeah, like Miranda slagged her off and then was like, no. So anyway, thank you for that literary reading. I think I'm not buying the book, and I'm disappointed. Like, Carrie used to be a good writer.
I'm not buying the book.
No.
I'm not even fucking like getting it from the library. I'm sorry. No.
But I would listen to you read it if you did the audiobook. Right, we are going to take a break now, though, and then we'll be back to talk about the rest of
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Okay, back. We're going to talk about Charlotte and Harry, who kind of had the B plot of this episode, I guess, sort of.
No, sorry. Miranda had the B. No, Miranda had the B plot of this episode, and Brady had the funniest line of the entire episode when he said, sorry, I have to go, I don't want to cunt my finger.
Oh, that was so good. Okay, let's talk about Miranda first. So Miranda
was good.
Is a meme. Now, you've done a lot of broadcast work. Have you ever accidentally said the word cunt live on air?
No. I'm trying to think. I've definitely cursed live on air. I've cursed, I think, when I was live on air on TV3 on midday at one point, and when we came back from the break, Elaine had to be like, I apologise for that earlier, and I was like, oh, that was me. No, I don't think I've ever said the word cunt live on air.
Yeah,
I always mean to say it when I say the word cunt, you know.
And it was like, it was so forced and fake. Like, it didn't in any way feel real, but I actually really enjoyed it.
It was deeply stupid, but I did enjoy that storyline. I did think, like, I did think Miranda's reaction to it was a little bit over the top. Like, I mean, I know she's kind of been a bit of a Luddite, hasn't she? Like, all along, like trying to figure out phones and stuff, and like we've had a bit of that with her character. So, like, maybe I get that she would overreact, but I did, and I felt like even. So she becomes a meme. She totally freaks out about it when Brady calls her, does not see the funny side of it. and then is convinced that this is why Joy, the BBC radio producer, is like being standoffish with her and isn't interested in her anymore. And I just felt like that was a little bit of a leap. That I'm like, I don't think Miranda would think that was why somebody didn't like her. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know, if you have like a big crush on someone and you did something embarrassing at their workplace, I don't know. I could kind of see myself inferring that. The meme thing,
Maybe.
I guess, the fact that like, I mean, I've never been memed. I know you've been like trolled and stuff on the internet, which has never happened to me.
I don't think I've ever been memed though.
You've been memed though. I don't know what it would feel like if you're trying to talk about human rights
funny.
and you're, I mean, and then she kind of invites, like, side note, Miranda is cat sitting and now kind of living in Carrie's apartment, so I actually think that they might now fulfill what we said they should do in episode 1, which is that she should just live with her instead of in an Airbnb, and that I'd be interested in that. I'd love to see them as flatmates.
Oh, yeah, I would love to see that too, but I don't. I think she's going to be back in her own gaff next week.
But they keep referring to Carrie's place as an apartment though, or a flat, and I'm very confused because isn't it just a huge house?
I don't know. Could it be like, you know, these big buildings in New York? Could it be a brownstone? Could it be a duplex? And maybe she has like the top 2 stories and like the bottom is a different apartment or something.
Because wasn't she
like, I think it could be something
running,
like that.
Wasn't she running down like 8 flights of stairs to turn off this alarm?
Oh, she was running all over the place in episode 1. Don't know. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
I do digress though because I'm just obsessed with her house. But they said that. So eventually, anyway, Joy comes over with her mates and they're all kind of as if they're in a 90s British sitcom. I didn't mind it.
It was like something out of Bridget Jones. I did find it really weird that they were smoking in someone else's house in 2025. I'm like, I don't think you would be doing that. Like, I don't think anybody who smokes lights up in someone's house, you go outside. Like, that's just...
Especially, I mean,
you know, that's normal now.
Yeah, I know the garden's empty, but like, to have a garden in New York City. Also, she has... When she said, she needed a table, I didn't realise she lived in a completely bare house.
Yeah, she has nothing but a bed.
And it's quite sinister, and I feel like it is representative of her in her life, maybe. But anyway, when she leaves and Miranda's like, you know, what happened? And she said, I'm really attracted to you. And then before they kissed, she said, warning, I'm a really bad kisser. I was so
It was really weird. And then Miranda, like, open mouth goes, liar, as they're kissing. Like, it was, I mean, I feel like that was just put in so that we could have that moment, but that was just really, it was like, I don't need this.
This is where so many people have messaged me saying that they think the writers are deliberately writing this badly because they're taking the piss and they want to troll everyone and they want to do like hate watches. But I've not listened to it for this episode yet and I cannot wait. But I listened to the Writers' Room podcast and I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I can't wait to hear what they say about this. This does feel like a trolling moment where you're just trying to clickbait us to be like, what is happening? Why would anyone say that before they kiss somebody? It's not a come on.
I don't know. I mean, unless she does think she's a bad kisser. Can we also just talk for a second about the scene where Miranda is calling Charlotte from the toilet? And I thought that was interesting because Miranda's the only one who's had any kind of like body comedy in this whole series. Like, wasn't there a whole scene where she was completely naked at one point and got stuck in the bath or fell in the bath or something?
That was such a
And
bad
she's
scene.
had like the graphic sex scenes with Che, and then we see her in this episode on the toilet. And like, I don't mind it because I frequently call friends from the toilet, and I don't have an issue with that. But I think it's kind of jarring because everyone else is very wrapped up, like very buttoned up. Sure, like Carrie has always been very covered up. Charlotte in this episode is trying to have sex with Harry and I'm pretty sure has her bra on, which I don't think she used to in the series, though I could be wrong.
No.
I feel like you used to see her
I think it's because she's an executive producer now, so she's just like, I'm not doing it.
I mean, and fair, but I don't know why.
We should see more naked Seema then. We need someone else's skin, do you know what I mean?
Well, or we decide we're just not doing nudity in the whole series. Because I feel like if the only one doing it is Miranda, it seems weird and it seems out of place. Do you know what I mean? That you're like, oh, there's like a weird scene where Miranda's on the toilet and why is that in there? You know what I mean?
One of my favourite scenes of all time, like I never laughed so much, is when Carrie was in bed after her hip operation, wet the bed while Miranda and Che were like going at it in the kitchen. It was just so nuts. It was such a nuts scene, and it was.
And Carrie was so angry about it afterwards.
I mean, if I was lying in bed incontinent, and like my friend was supposed to be nursing me.
Yeah, but like I feel like I would have shouted for her. Where she was like, I have to keep quiet because they're having sex. She didn't have to keep quiet. They have to fuck off.
It was a studio
you know
apartment. I mean, the whole thing was just. I want more scenes like that, to be honest. But yeah, Miranda. Yeah, fine, Miranda. I get it. Like, you're dating someone now, but like the human rights thing has been too shoehorned in. Like I don't know why they're going there, because they're treating it very trivially, and I don't know what's happening. One of our patrons left a really interesting comment this week where she said, it doesn't help that next to LTW and Seema, who are strong, stunning and powerful, our girls now seem a little drab in comparison. And I thought that was a really good point.
That is a really good point.
Yeah,
Charlotte, I mean, like Charlotte this episode, work-wise, seemed a bit pathetic in her career. Miranda does still seem like an intern, even though she now has her own office. And Carrie has nothing going on. You're right.
They've lost that kind
They're
of
right.
joie de vivre. Like, I know I enjoyed Charlotte's kind of scenes last week in the club and stuff, but like in this episode shows Charlotte's find the stuff about the neighbours and the daughter and the kids on some app. It's like, okay, why is it, like, again, if this episode's 45 minutes long, we could have just cut these. Then it's like the importance of community, the granddad's visiting. And then Anthony comes to dinner again. I really did enjoy when the granddad's visiting and he has this neighbor app or something, and the neighbor comes to the door and goes, "I'm here for my banana." I laughed out loud at that. I enjoyed the idea.
I did find that entertaining.
His dad's getting down and actually all hooking up with the neighbor. And when Anthony came to dinner, I rolled my eyes and I thought, is Anthony do Anthony and his boyfriend have anywhere else to go? Because they're just always at these family dinners. But then I enjoyed that scene with kind of all. I
actually enjoyed that scene too, because I've been very anti Charlotte's family, and I'm like, I don't want to see any of them. But I enjoyed that whole part. Like, I enjoyed the part where Lily is explaining, or Rock is explaining, that Lily's boyfriend is Polly, and like the granddad's like, well, Polly want a cracker or something, like that I thought was like so stupid but funny.
It was a fun scene.
I found those scenes quite entertaining. I'm a bit concerned about the like setting Harry up as like, is Harry gonna die? But I feel like there's something going on with Harry.
Because the incontinent thing last week, and then this week he can't get it off. And it's so... My Sex and the City brain went into overdrive when I was watching this. And I was like, I feel like I've seen this country plot and this, like, male genitalia plot together before. So I was looking it up. And it was actually... So it was season 4, episode 9, Sex in the Country. So Carrie had gone to the cabin with Aidan.
Yes.
And simultaneously, Steve had testicular cancer. And Miranda was kind of supporting him as a friend. Anyway, just a reminder, because in the last episode I said, I think, I was trying to remember, I thought Harry had testicular cancer before, but I was mixing him up with Stephen, so correction on last week. So I think that's where they're going with this, but I just, like, I don't think they needed... This made more sense, like, they're in bed together, and you know, it's an intimate moment. Whereas last episode... Just what they did to him in terms of the buttoning. I actually
couldn't even cope with that. It was just awful. It was awful. And like his acting in it as well was almost like we've seen it in Sex and the City before, when like a guy comes in his pants. That's what the acting was a bit like.
Yeah.
It was very unpleasant for me personally.
And we got a lot of comments about that this week. Somebody messaged us, this is actually a comedy trope, because Ross and Friends has done it, and apparently someone in Frasier's done it as well.
Got stuck in his pants.
Yeah. What they did to him last week, I do think was fairly unforgivable, because of it's not that, like, you know, people experiencing incontinence, there's nothing wrong with that. It's how they handled it, how they wrote it. It wasn't funny. It was really bad. No. Yeah, but I think they're gearing up to Harry having an issue now. I do. After
I think
especially when she said it's because you're old, but then they were like, oh, but look, your dad's out doing it, so...
Yeah, I do think there's something going on. I do also have written down, are these people even English? This is about Miranda and her friends. And then in caps, oh my God, a jump scare to Harry and Charlotte in bed. Vom, vom, vom. Why is their bed so tiny? Did you notice that?
Yeah, because
they're definitely in like a small double.
Like, they live in like Park Avenue.
Why wouldn't they have a king-size super king? Like, why do they have such a tiny, tiny, tiny bed?
So strange. And then Rock comes in and is like, oh, Granddad's on Pornhub. And again, it was one of those plots where we're like, but why? But it's kind of funny. Like, I think this episode just brought her... Like, if this had been the first time we'd seen their kids all season, it would actually have been welcome, because it was kind of fun. Yes. It was within Harry and Charlotte's plot line. Like, contextually made sense in this episode.
Yes, I enjoyed Harry and Charlotte this episode in a way that I didn't expect to, and that I haven't so far.
I know.
I actually liked Miranda's storyline as well. Like, I like that she's getting with Joy. I feel like they make sense as a couple, and they have kind of okay chemistry, or I thought that until they started kissing, and then I was just like, this is. But I do think Miranda goes, like, Cynthia Nixon as the actor always goes into, I'm orgasming when she's kissing. There's something very like, she starts to kiss and her mouth goes open and her eyes close and she starts to like get into this state of rapture, and I'm like, it's just a kiss.
Well, even like last week when they were putting their hands on each other's chests, and she was like getting off in the restaurant about it, you know, like she does.
Oh,
but I also saw somebody online saying that like all of a sudden this season, why is Miranda just like a sexual predator? She just goes after every woman she meets.
Well, she's just really horny, like, because she hasn't been with anyone since Jay. Well, since Jay and then Rosie O'Donnell, but like, I feel like that's fine, you know, and I think that's probably realistic as well. That somebody like who's kind of processed their divorce now and had this big fling with Che, and that's, you know, that was this great love and it failed or whatever, and she's now over that and is basically on the prowl. Yes,
and has no gaydar, so she just comes on.
Oh yeah, well, like that's also funny, and like I wonder how true that is for women and men who come out later in life. Like, I wonder if you don't develop gaydar in the same way that you might if you're like on the scene since you were a teenager or whatever.
I think so too. I think especially for women,
that's interesting.
I think a lot of women are very sexually ambiguous. You wouldn't. It mightn't be as
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think that that interesting. Now we've got two smaller plots then left, which is LTW and Marilyn. This I'm into.
Oh,
I'm very
please
into this.
God, will she have an affair with this guy? Marion, isn't it? Isn't it Marion?
Is it Marion? Oh, it's Marion. You're right.
I think it's Marion because that can be a man's name here, right? If she doesn't fuck him, I don't know that I'm coming back for season 4, because when he walked in that room, I was like, yes, finally a man we can all root for.
Yeah, I know. But then they brought her husband up last episode, where I'm like, oh, he's kind of cool actually. Like, his career advice was decent. His advice about her friend.
He was good. I know, I know, and he was good about this guy as well. So I was kind of like, oh, they're not really setting him up for us to be happy if she does cheat on him, if you know what I mean.
But then, like, when Carrie was with Aidan and she was cheating on him with Big, like, I wasn't happy, but it's the most
true
thrilling TV of my life, and like, I'll never forget it, you know.
Yeah, that is actually true, that they've never shied away from like cheating on a good man. So I'm hoping that that's in LTW's future.
We just want her to blow. We just want someone to have sex. Just blow up your whole life, LTW.
Do it for the plot.
That's how desperate the show has left us. Like, even Seema's not having sex anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. What was Seema's plot line in this episode?
Seema got
what's she going to do about work? Basically,
she got done so dirty. This episode, she gets kicked out of her office by someone I learned last week is a real life person playing himself. And apparently he's on like New York real estate shows, and which I don't really like, because I don't think they should cross over real characters into fictional shows. I find that confusing. I know they've done it in the past with like the Donald Trump cameo or whatever. And it's funny you mentioned that you never liked when they left New York, because the 2 LA episodes are 2 of my favorite.
I don't even remember those.
Remember, she goes and she ends up, it's Vince Vaughn, but he's not playing himself. And then she ends up meeting the other Carrie, aka Princess Leia. And she was playing herself, Carrie Fisher. So that sometimes people have played themselves in here, I guess, so I can forgive it this. But yeah, basically. Yeah, Seema gets kicked out. Then she tries to poach the assistant. The assistant says, my rent is $3,000 a month. And Seema's like, never mind.
Good luck. Yeah.
And I like when they bring in the realities of like
life,
people. But I'm like, Seema, you're so rich that surely you could pay this woman enough to cover her rent.
That did also occur to me, yes. Although Seema, I would say, is a fiscal Republican as well. Back to my original point, and I would say that she's not giving money away for nothing.
Seema's name is on the building though, so I'm slightly confused by this owl lad leaving. And suddenly Seema...
I was confused by that too, and suddenly she's out because, well, did he have a controlling share? Did he say that controlling stake and he sold that?
I have no idea.
So like her name might have been on the building because he was like, of course it could be our business, but then if somebody else owns a controlling share, they might be like, no, not anymore.
They've both shown us too much of this because I don't give it, you know what, and also not enough because I can't follow it. So it's like bad storytelling on both sides. Like last week when they showed her phoning up to resign and then they never even showed us the phone call, and it's like, if you're going to build it up, at least let her have her moment.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That was off screen.
Agreed.
So the Seema, I'm very disappointed with Seema's plot lines. I mean, I enjoyed the dating stuff in episode 2, but other than that, I'm disappointed in Seema this season. LTW is now where all my money is on. Make it happen, LTW.
Yeah. So what are we hoping is going to happen? I mean, obviously we're hoping that Aiden is going to be gone, but I don't know. I feel like introducing his kids more, her being on the farm, her saying like, I understand. I don't know that they're going to give us what we want. And
Maybe
get rid of
next episode it gets on a peloton and it sorts itself out.
I would say he's anti-Peloton. He just likes getting out on the bike in the countryside.
He's anti-vax.
In the fresh air.
He's anti. What isn't he anti? I'm hoping that next episode she's like me and Aiden on a break and they just completely park it and she goes off and flirts with her gardener. I don't know. Charlotte and Harry, I think he's on the way out and I think we'll feel bad for slagging him off later.
Oh, I actually don't think he's going to die. I think he might be going to get sick and then we're going to have that storyline, but I don't think they could make him die after Big.
You're right, they can't kill another husband off.
No, I don't think that really makes sense. Sorry, but back to, I did also worry, although maybe this was in the last episode. Was this the last episode where Seema meets the gardener? And I was like, no, not for you, Seema. I was like, no, this is Carrie's.
Yeah, and they were really flirting as well.
Yeah, and I also really liked his shirt. I was like, I want a shirt that says Home of the Whopper.
Look, I don't care who it is, but someone needs to fuck that gardener. That's all I'm saying. Like any of them. It could be anyone. Oh,
but sorry, not Miranda.
I take it. Like, I would take anything.
No.
Like, they're kind of like in the last, or the episode before last when she was watching this bi show, they're kind of alluding to her being bi, but they're not going anywhere with that either. I'm just a little bit bored of her and Joy are like a couple in the next episode. We're really, like, we had Miranda and Seema. Miranda's now gone if she's not dating. Seema is off setting up a real estate business, don't care about, like, you know what Samantha, who's basically Seema. Samantha had like a really successful PR business, but like we never saw her actually doing it, and like we didn't need to.
No, thank God. Yeah,
like we saw her like blowing the postal guy or whatever in her office, but like, and she was like Jared's publicist or whatever. But like we don't actually, like, I know I'm saying with Miranda. Like, Miranda, they're not showing us the human rights stuff, and I don't really want to see it. I just wish they'd stop referencing it because they're making light of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also don't really care about what's going on with Charlotte's work either.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, fine, she works in a gallery. I'm happy to be aware of that fact, but I don't need to know anything further than that.
Unless it's like old school where one of them, paints her labia or whatever. Like, the gallery stuff was
perfect.
Cool.
I enjoyed that. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a cringe moment of the week in this one? I forgot to tell you in advance to do that. So I'm now putting you on the spot.
Sorry. I'm sorry to do this now. I think my cringe moment of the week was Wyatt's acting. Like, the actor who plays Wyatt's acting throughout the whole thing, because he really was doing he is playing a petulant child, but he was really playing like a petulant pantomime child. And actually, I think the other two brothers were very good actors.
If overly effusive.
They were written to be way overly effusive about Carrie, whatever, but they were good actors. Whereas I feel like he really stood out for like not being great, and I just found that really, and he's just so unlikable, and that's making the Aiden storyline harder because I'm like, you're staying behind for this guy? I know he's just kid. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I hate him.
I think it's like, I always think a good kid actor is on the back of a good director, because kids,
that's true too,
they need to be comfortable. You need to cast them right. Like, I think he's probably is a good actor, and he's probably not been directed well, because like we know some of these people can act. We've seen them act well in previous seasons, and we ain't seeing it now. So,
but listen, that kid is probably 25 in real life. Let's look it up. What is your cringe moment of the week?
I think my cringe moment of the week is, as you called it, my Roman Empire. It's Carrie's book. Like, I've been waiting for it to get better, and it's getting worse, because I've realised that we're only ever hearing the end of each chapter, which I guess we used to hear the end of every article she was writing. But like, if I'm reading a book and the end of the chapter says she's not quite sure if her taxing journey brought her closer to or further from the things she most longed for, I'm closing the book and I'm never picking it up again. I'm very disappointed in, like, I thought she was a good writer, and like when she wrote her grief memoir in season 1, I thought that was probably a good book.
Yeah, that probably was a good book, and it felt like she was going towards more good books, but this isn't it.
So I think that's a wrap on episode 4. Thank you,
Rosemary.
Rosemary.
But like, how many more episodes are there of this terrible series?
There are 8 more episodes.
8 more episodes? Oh God, I was sure there were only about 4.
When I committed to doing weekly recaps, I truly did not know there were 12 episodes, and I realised I committed my entire summer to this.
Oh, you have. But I'm like, do I want there to be 4 more episodes and for it to be over, or do I want there to be 100 more episodes so that we can actually go so it can actually go somewhere? Because I feel like the things that I want to have happen, this needs to be on every day like Love Island.
What we need is for it to be better. But if I'm making a choice, I watch it every day till I die. And on my deathbed, if there's a new episode, I'm like, Dave, put on it just like that. I need to see what happens.
Oh my God, I've just had a terrifying thought. Imagine if one of us died before the series ended. We wouldn't know what was going to happen. Sometimes I think about like ever since I had kids, sometimes I have this panic where I'm like, oh my God, what if I die before I know what they're going to grow up to be like, or what kind of adults they're going to be? But then I'm like, fuck that. What if I die before and just like that finishes?
What kind of adult will Carrie grow up to be? Because we still don't know. I'm wondering now if Carrie's going to do, like Roseanne Barr, who's gone full MAGA, despite being like a feminist icon in her day. Can we see this in Carrie's future? Is she going to like end up on Fox News as a correspondent? What's happening?
And just like that, Carrie found herself in a red cap at a Trump rally. I might not be that surprised.
I'd watch it in high heels, despite her hip replacement. Anyway, Rosemary, thank you so much for coming back again. You're such a fun guest.
Thank you for having me.
Know where they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram, where I'm at Rosemary Mac Cabe with an A on my Mac. I'm on Substack, rosemarymaccabe.substack.com. If you Google Rosemary Mac Cabe, you'll find all these things. And I have a podcast called Not Without My Sister that I co-present with my sister Beatrice, and that is usually out weekly. We're having some scheduling difficulties right now, but we'll get back to it.
I love that podcast. It's just a lovely listen of 2 sisters like gossiping and slagging each other off. As someone with sisters, I love it. Thank you so much, Rosemary, and I might track you back for one more before the season is done at the end of the summer.
Sorry, please bring me on for the final so that I can just shit on what has not happened that I wanted to happen. That's what I want.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, look at you.
Look at me. Little house on the Carrie.